Christene Marie, and I am so excited for our conversation tonight. Um, y'all, I just realized I actually am going on way earlier than I normally do. So, oops. Um, no, I'm right on time. Okay, good. I can't even with the time change. Okay, good. I'm glad. 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We are right on time. Um, y'all, tonight we're going to be talking around or about rather boundaries. And this felt like an important conversation because frankly, it's something that I'm really in the middle of right now. And I like talking about real-time things. We frequently have, for those of you who don't know much about the Knowing Show, I'll just give you a little bit of context. The Knowing Show is dedicated to the cultivation of you and me, to us doing the inner work, to looking in the mirror and cultivating who we are and asking the hard questions and also coming alongside each other. I will have guests on the Knowing Show and I'll interview them and draw them out. And here in the community, in the chat, we'll actually have a decent amount of conversations that are really meaningful. Um, thankfully, I've actually been encouraged to do this by some folks in the chat over the last couple of weeks where there have been folks who have just been posting things inappropriately. So I'm going to start letting you have just a warning, and then I will be putting people on timeout because I really want to preserve the integrity of these conversations. But one of the things that I love doing with our guests is I love asking them right before we go live, what is real time for you? What are you thinking about right now? What's on your heart? And the reason for that is because I don't yes, I do appreciate the canned speeches. You know, there's canned speeches for a reason. Usually there's some really good nuggets in there. But I love the organic, natural, real-time evolution of thought of what is actually going on mentally, emotionally, uh on the even the exploration side of things experientially. And so I am doing that tonight because I'm kind of at this crossroads myself surrounding some boundaries that I might need to put into place. And so I wanted to talk about boundaries tonight with you. And frankly, I'd love to even get y'all's feedback because I think all of us, maybe not all of us, maybe some of you have really mastered boundaries. But for all of us, for the most part, from what I've seen and experienced thus far, we really value truth. We value, we really value being kind and love as well. And so, frankly, we've never talked about boundaries here on the show in this manner before. So I'm excited to hear how truth, love, and boundaries all work together in concert. Before I continue, I just want to jump here in the chat and say hello, Brian. I love how you've been coming on here with some great questions already ready. I'm gonna do what I've done the last 2 nights, and Um, I'm gonna have this question. Do you believe in giving people second chances? I'm gonna have this queued up for a little bit from now because I love that question. Sigh. You always come on when I'm running errands, and I'm thinking about McDonald's. That's so funny. Where are you running errands, Sigh? Um, I went to Sprouts today. It's very good. Hills. Oh my. Oh no, there's a fruit fly. Uh-oh. For those of you who love animals, I'm sorry, I just killed a fruit fly. He was literally in my face. Andy Garcia, great name. Saqib, hello. Thank you for joining. Um, all right. Inaka, Michael, good to see you both. Um, ooh, Rodrigo, good to see you. Martin Flores, um, Christopher Adams, it may seem boundaries are dependent on context, especially what type of relationship you are engaging in with someone, whether it is romantic, professional, or otherwise. So important. So, context is so important when talking boundaries. And I'm so glad you brought that up, Christopher, because honestly, so many times we talk about boundaries in such a broad way where it's actually not beneficial to hardly any of us because how many of us are in the same situation over and over again where we need the same boundary and the context changes so much. So context in the conversation of boundaries is probably the best starting point that I can think of. So I'm so glad you said that, Christopher. Y'all, what else? I'd love to hear your thoughts on boundaries and how have you used them in the past? How have you used them in the past? Where haven't they worked? So if you're up for it, tell me where your boundaries haven't worked. FN Johnny Boy, yes, I have the Knowing podcast YouTube. He says, are you doing 2 YouTubes at once? Yes, I've got my Knowing podcast and then my regular one. Inaka Habibi, good to see you. John Wisdom, thank you. Thank you for joining. Michael Anthony, no, not officially, no. I'd like to think I would be one day. Oh my, Vanderly, thanks for joining. Lee J, no. Visu, hello. Y'all, context around boundaries. So I want to lean into that. How we show up with our coworkers, how we show up with our family, how we show up with our loved one, our partner, let's say, somebody that we're in a romantic relationship with. There's very different levels of, I think you can even say, personalization. It's almost like the boundary is further out depending on the relationship, and the closer they get to you, the boundary comes closer and closer. So really, perhaps this is actually something that is a really, really good example is if you're constantly showing up in my DMs and we have a professional relationship, that's crossing a boundary for me personally, right? Because you're showing up the same way my sister is. And I need to have a different type of dynamic. And that's me personally. Some other people, no problem. Their sister sleeps over at their house every night. So, based on your level of comfort, your boundary is going to change. So, that's an example of how, okay, professionally versus family. I'm going to have a different level of engagement based on how I engage with my family, and it's kind of like working personally outward. Um, Josh says, I don't consciously think about things like this. I just do it. I'd be curious though if there'd be benefit to consciously thinking about it, because here's the thing. Otherwise, we're stuck in a moment of being caught off guard, and we're getting caught in a moment of surprise. I've had this happen to me a couple of times where I've had people message me something and it feels inappropriate. And I have felt frozen, like I haven't known what to say. And so sometimes boundaries can just be as simple as having a prepared, it's like a sound bite, like a prepared text or line that we just shoot back and say, hey, I actually don't entertain texts like this. Wishing you all the best. Not a problem, not a big deal. And then it's done. And then sometimes, we actually need to end the communication because it's crossed a boundary that's beyond all repair. But here's the thing, you and I have to know what is our own comfort level and then be able to act accordingly. But for so often, it actually took me a number of years to be able to know, what do I even feel comfortable to begin with? Am I creating my boundaries based off of what other people think? Am I creating boundaries off of how I was raised? Am I creating boundaries off of what my partner wants? What do I actually want? How do I want to engage? Where do I feel comfortable? And so the more you and I take ownership for our own experience, the more we're then able to create boundaries as a result that are true and integrous to who we are, rather than just blaming everybody around us. And when I say blaming, it really is kind of true. Blaming our parents. Well, my parents won't let me do that. Blaming our partner. Well, my partner doesn't want me to have, talk to other guys or something like that. So are we taking radical responsibility for our own selves and our own experience? And frankly, that's uncomfortable. Once we actually sit in the driver's seat and say, I actually don't want that. That makes me personally, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Maybe you guys have no problem doing that, but that's just not my MO. That wasn't how I was raised. And that just wasn't how I interacted with the world. So I am like a recovering codependent, for those of you who are just starting to get to know me. So for those of us who are recovering codependents, how do we create boundaries? How do we even know what we want in the first place? So that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about this. I love Christopher Adams. You said at the very beginning, context. And I think that the further out that person is in terms of relationship, the further out that effectively they get access to us. And then the closer they come to us in terms of relational distance, then the boundaries lessen. I'm just looking here. Josh Gee says, how people perceive you. Isn't that such an interesting thing? People that are funny, charming always seem to get away with a lot and push boundaries more. Interesting, in my experience. That's such an interesting point of view. And actually, I think you're right. Somebody who's joking and laughing about something, it's almost like they can tip over the line because the person who is supposed to be watching the line is laughing. I think you make such an astute observation there. That's so interesting. So then here's the question. Then okay, so as we're creating the boundaries, do we even know what we feel comfortable to begin with? How are we enforcing the boundaries? And y'all, this is my biggest question tonight. But before we get to that, I just want to jump into some of the chat here. Brian says, I never knew what boundaries were until 5 years ago. I'd love to hear what happened and how you started kind of being aware of your boundaries. I think that honestly, isn't that funny? My boundaries, I started becoming aware of my boundaries around 4 years ago. So around the same time. Oh, interesting. Hua. I'm going up to your text. I believe social boundaries are currently evolving. Movements such as feminism and increasing political correctness have influenced the dynamics between men and women. As a result, newer generations feel more hesitant or cautious when forming connections with the opposite sex. I completely agree with you, and I think that that's another astute note. Isn't that funny? The sensitivity too that we're experiencing these days. I'm so glad you brought that up because there's something around whether someone is just really sensitive, but also if they don't feel comfortable with that. Oh man, this is a hard one. Oh, this is really, really hard. I kind of think that if they're just going to be not too sensitive, if they're going to be that sensitive, whether it's on whatever scale, right? You might think that someone else is being too sensitive, where for them, that actually crossed a boundary 10 minutes ago. It almost doesn't even matter. And go find somebody who can accept your humor and can accept your jokes. But at the same time, Hua, I agree with you. There's such a sensitivity where people can't laugh together anymore and joke together anymore. And so it's like, how do we bring that back? But what could also be a question is, can we return to the types of jokes that actually are more innocent and not charged in some way, whether political or sexual or otherwise? I love the comedians who are genuinely witty. Like, they don't have to make fun at somebody. They can maybe poke fun at themselves, or they can be witty about, I don't know, mathematics or science or nature, or just they can be witty about something without putting something or someone else down. I think that's the mark of true humor, and they can do it without using foul language. I just think people who can pull forth jokes around something that's very normal and very common across all political, geopolitical, interracial, cultural dynamics, and it's just every human experiences this, the more brilliant they are. That's my opinion. But who I think you're so right. All right, just going back in the chat. Wow, Frank Zappa. What a line. I have a great life now. I'm scared to take a chance on a relationship. Maybe we should talk about that tomorrow night. I might have a guest. I have to check, but that's like a whole show worthy. I seem to get away with a lot of double standards. That's just Josh. I get it. Interesting. Josh, do you like that? Do you like hearing that? I'm wondering if you actually, if like you kind of have, I don't know, that I feel like that would be kind of fun to have that kind of ability to kind of get away with stuff, but I'm wondering if you actually like that. Um, hmm. Exchange, I'm just checking in with your comment. But before I do, James Goodlet, I'm so glad you're here. This is your first time. We talk all things emotional intelligence, intellectual intelligence, spiritual, physical intelligence. It's all about cultivating ourselves and having fun while we do it. Um, oh no. Okay, I just lost my place, but I'm coming back to you. Exchange. Anthony says, "What are boundaries?" I'm so glad you asked that because frankly, that's exactly where we should have started. We just kind of started talking, assuming that everybody was on the same page, but we should always start with definitions. Y'all, I would love to hear your definition of, and I'm just actually going to pin this. What are boundaries? What are they? Let's go ahead and address that first because brilliant, brilliant question. This is exactly what we should have started with, and then Explorer, I'll go to your comments down here. All right, what are boundaries? I'm so glad you brought this up. Thank you. And I'm just going to wait. It takes actually a few minutes for my question to come through and then people to respond. What are boundaries? Ooh, I'm just looking through a couple of these chats while I'm waiting to see what people say. Brian says, I didn't like the way my life was heading and knew I needed to change. I started reading spiritual books. 150 in 5 years changes things. Holy cow. Brian, I want to know what's your top 5 in 150? That's wild. And I'm so impressed by that. Good Lord. Behaviors once considered chivalrous or traditionally masculine are now approached more cautiously, as they sometimes can be perceived as offensive or sexist. At the same time, many women still express a preference for traditionally masculine traits when seeking partners or engaging in flirtation. Isn't that so true? Boundaries are what you set. Okay, here we go. Here are some answers. The man in the hat. Boundaries are what you set that allows others to know what is permissible to you or not. I love that. That's so, so, so good. Brian, boundaries are the often invisible physical, emotional, and mental limits individuals set to define acceptable behavior, ensuring personal safety, autonomy, and healthy relationships. Hmm. Wow. I love that. I feel like that's so holistic. Sammy, the great one. I'm so glad to see you. What are boundaries? Ron's in Drick. Respect, integrity, common sense, willingness to sacrifice oneself to save another. Wow. Common decency, um, honesty, taking responsibility for one's actions have always been key. Anything else is garbage. I love that. Look at all of those wonderful respect, integrity, common sense. I love it. Um, that's so good. All right, boundaries are things set that you won't tolerate out of love. Ah, Alonzo. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Things that you won't tolerate out of love. Man, I almost have chills hearing that, Alonzo, because man, that's so important. I'm going to go ahead and pin this for everybody to see. Y'all, this last 3 words, out of love. That's the thing. We're not setting boundaries out of fear. We're not setting boundaries because we're hateful or angry or because we're afraid of what's going to happen. We're setting boundaries out of love because here's the thing. You and I are finite. We only have so much energy, so much capacity, so much ability to give. And so if anybody can come and access us at any time, if anybody can say anything and get us out of whack, get us angry, get us pissy, get us upset. If people have that much power over us, that means that at any moment, our power, our ability to love somebody, and our ability to operate. We had a conversation a couple weeks ago about walking in our power, being in the fullness of our own potential. But if somebody else can come in and knock us off course that easy, man, that's dangerous. It's dangerous for our mission. It's dangerous for our families who deserve so much of that reserve of love and care and energy. So if we're walking out the door at 5 p.m. and then the coworker that we don't like says, "Hey, I hope you have a great weekend, lazy ass." And then we're just like, "Are you kidding me?" Now, the rest of the drive home, the entire night with our family, we're in a bad mood because of 5 seconds with that coworker that we don't like. He just took all of our extra energy. He took all of our attention. There's this line that I love: where you place your attention is where you place your energy. And so, one of the best things for me that's been effectively a form of a boundary is, where am I placing my attention? Because my energy is going all the way there. And if I don't want to be having my energy going towards anger, stop putting my attention on the thing that makes me angry. Stop it. Stop thinking about the person that makes me angry. Move out of that space, move away from it, fixate on something else. And in so doing, we move away from that moment and that person that frankly has a bit of power over us. And then when I can, with a clear mind and head, come back into it. It's like what you said earlier, Brian, that I really like. When describing boundaries, Brian says boundaries are the invisible, physical, emotional, mental limits individuals set to define acceptable behavior, ensuring personal safety, autonomy, and healthy relationships. And to add on Alonzo's, out of love. Because it's for our own sake, for the sake of those that we love, that we put boundaries in place. And then here's the next thing: boundaries are for you and me. They're for us to honor. They're not for anybody else to honor, because we can't control what anybody else is going to do. And so, if we don't like how someone else is treating us, if we don't like what's going on in this certain dynamic, then actually it's our responsibility to move away from it. And I didn't understand this for a long time. I actually felt like it was the job of everyone around me to honor my boundaries. And I didn't realize that, no, actually, like, this is on me. And so what a cool thing, y'all, that you and I get to take that kind of radical control of our lives by coming in and really understanding, oh yeah, like I care about this. This is my value. These boundaries are going to keep me acting in accordance with who I want to be and the pathway that I want to exist on effectively. So if we don't know our boundaries, and much less we don't know where we're going, we're not going to be able to put anything in place. Now think of it this way. I saw this analogy one time. I was sitting in the back of the room. I was sitting in the back of the room at this Amazon event, and my team and I had done the communications for it, and then our partner had done the actual event. So I was sitting in the back of the room listening to the keynote, and she held up this pitcher of water over a basin. And she held a glass in her other hand. So she pours some water into the glass, and she holds up the glass, and she says, "So many of you will give from a half full cup." And then she fills it up, and now the cup is full. And she holds it up. She says, "Others of you will give from a full cup." And then she puts a glass over the basin again. And then she pours, but she pours and pours and pours, and all this water flows into the basin below. She holds up the glass, the full glass. She says, "Y'all, this cup, this full cup is for you. The overflow is for everybody else." Y'all, when we think about it that way, that moment really truly changed my life in so many ways, because I had been giving from half full cup for most of my life with nothing left over for me. And then I wondered why I was depleted. I wondered why I was easily upset. And so once I realized that, man, my glass being full is 100% for me, and then the overflow is for everybody else. All right. Now all of a sudden it takes boundaries to such a more important level, where it's actually truly, 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 truly for the good of everybody around me, that I do take boundaries seriously. So I'm going to jump back here in the chat, because man, I'm loving what everybody is contributing here, and I'm going to take a water break while I do that. Top global. Holy cow. What is your purpose in life? Ooh, I'll get to that in a second, because I love that question. Oh, I love this, Mike. Ugh, we have boundaries. I'm just gonna show this for everybody. We have boundaries so we don't collapse when we meet resistance navigating the world. Oh my gosh. Isn't that so true? Y'all, life is freaking hard. Life is hard. And boundaries really do keep us safe. Oh, I like this. Cyber and Land Explorer says there are three sets of boundaries: societal boundaries, individual boundaries, and relationship boundaries. So, 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 so good. Mm. Okay, hold on. Clint Black. I'm not sure what you mean by this. Learning how to live with narcissistic personalities interest all of us. I think it's actually important. I'm not sure where you're going with that, so feel free to expound. But with the call out on the narcissistic side, y'all, it's so important that we recognize truly that the purpose of boundaries is so that we love better. I just want to double click on that because I think it is easy to walk away from this and be like, oh, I can just shirk off any relationship I want because it's a little bit annoying. No, no. Like the goal is that we are able to have the strength and endurance and resilience when the going gets tough. Like you were saying earlier about having the ability to match resistance and to have what it takes to fight the good fight. And the goal is that we don't reach zero energy before it's too late in the day. There's a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. So, so good. It talks about effectively our willpower is akin to a battery pack. We wake up every morning with 100%. As the day goes on, we kind of make a lot of hard decisions in the morning. You work out, you make good, healthy food choices, you drink your coffee and your smoothie on your way to work. You look great. And then as the day goes on, your willpower and your battery pack dwindle. They start lessening in charge. And then by the end of the day, in the evening, it's like, could sneak that second slice of cake. Oh, we should order pizza in. And all of a sudden, it's everything we started out with in the morning is gone because our willpower, like a battery pack, has dwindled. So, our boundaries protect us from ourselves sometimes, even from when we need. There's a book called The Art of War, too, which effectively is like everything is resistance. So many times throughout the day, we're hitting resistance, resistance, resistance. And when we start realizing that there's effectively this like subliminal, like this very subtle like veneer in life that we can't see, but there's resistance that we're running up against, which is like, okay, am I going to eat the third Oreo, fifth Oreo, 10th Oreo or not? Or am I going to abstain like I promised? I'll just be really straight. Well, am I going to abstain from porn like I promised my wife I would? That's a really hard choice, and there's resistance to it. And if I leave it up to willpower, that's probably going to be hard, especially at midnight or 11 o'clock at night. And so then the question is, well, can I put a boundary in place for my own good, which is what's it called? Like private eyes, purity eyes. I don't know, something. We used to have something like that on in our house growing up as a kid to just have like it was just a boundary. And so the more that we can self perpetuate boundaries in our lives to protect ourselves, so that man, this resistance, it's like it is resisting us on any and all sides. It's honestly like there's actually, did you know that there's like addictive components in the blue light rays that come forward from our phone? Like it's actually addictive. What and then we wonder why it's so hard to get off our phones. It's not like it's actually meant and designed, even the games, they're designed to attract us and to keep us addicted. So there really is something around. I love that you said resistance because there is something to that in so many ways. Um, I'm just looking through here on the chat. Ooh, I'm gonna go ahead and put you on timeout. Sorry, Rich does. I don't know what's going on with you, but you might need some love today. Meanwhile, younger generations appear more guarded, leading to the perception that traditional forms. Yes. Okay. So Hua, I think that that actually does warrant a whole show. What you're saying here is so important. So, Hua was making the point for those of you who just joined. He was saying that effectively the boundaries today with a lot of women are making it hard for people to really understand this whole concept of like, well, what do women want? Because women can call it sexist or like call in the card of feminists for men who are like opening the door or doing some kind of traditional masculine type of behavior. And it almost like doesn't feel safe nowadays for men to be men, which I think is so sad in so many ways. And so, if you guys would be up or want to have a show kind of dedicated to that, I would be super open to hearing your thoughts. All right, going back to the chat. Glamour. I love this. I'm always setting boundaries and getting more firmer on it with anyone. So good. C. Martin Love. Hello, my friend. Setting and reinforcing or enforcing boundaries allows relationships to thrive based on mutual respect and clarity. Ooh, that's so good. Mutual respect. I think that that's one because if people don't respect it, that's kind of a hard thing. Okay, guys, let's actually talk about this. I would love to know Christopher Adams, I'm gonna look that up, Galatians 5:22, verse 23. Um, I'm gonna look up that verse because I actually don't know, that one off by heart. Um, I would love to know, what do you do when somebody crosses your boundary? That's a hard question. What do you do? And and it could be multiple different things, right? Because as we've been talking about boundaries, there's different contexts, there's different relationships, different degrees of boundaries. Um, so how do you what do you do? How do you take action? Um, I'm gonna take a moment and just pause because it takes a few minutes for that to come in. Oh, I love this. Christopher Adams, you put down Galatians 5:22. Uh Guitar tuning says that's my favorite verse. I love that. All right. Also, I have to sneeze. Whew. I'm gonna go on mute while I do that. Or just blow my nose. Okay. Mm. Eric, when someone forces you to go 1 mile, let them go with them too. Hot dog. Isn't that a slap in the face verse? Okay. I'm trying to look down for Luke 19:27. All right, I'm noting that as well. Okay. Y'all, I'm not seeing anyone with answers. Oh, yes. Oh, I love that. The fruit of the spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I forgot that that was the verse. I love that. Um, C. Martin Love, I statements such as I feel disrespected when you yell and I am ending this conversation. Clearly state your boundary, explain the consequence of violating it, and follow through with consequences. Self control is a fundamental tenet of boundaries. Oh, I love that. You know what's so. Oh man, see Martin Love, you saying that just made me think of something. I'm gonna go ahead and read through the rest of these. Um, but that was really good about just reinforcing it. If someone crosses your boundary, first they have to know what they are to do, that they have to know what they are to do. So let the person know when you find whatever acts of or words are inappropriate and move on. You know what? And then Ron says this, which I actually really, really love. If someone accidentally blunders over a boundary, quietly tell them so. If it was an honest mistake, they will beg your forgiveness and the situation evaporates. And isn't that so true? My gosh, guys, if somebody crosses a boundary and you tell them and then they don't apologize, that's a really good sign. But then if they do apologize, all right, like let's forgive and move forward, and that's I think where, and it depends on what the boundary was and all of that good stuff. But I love how you said if they cross a boundary, quietly tell them. It's not pointing it and yelling it and embarrassing them in front of everybody. And then, depending on their reaction. And here's another point, y'all, that I think is really important. We train people how to treat us. So if we continuously are being treated a certain way and we don't like it, that warrants us to look in the mirror. What are we maybe doing that's inviting that kind of behavior? And I know a lot of people don't like this conversation. So bear with me. This is us taking radical responsibility, and this is what the show is about. And you know what this does is it takes the power back rather than sitting here and kind of in this victim role in our life of like, I don't know why, but we train people how to treat us. So if we're constantly being treated a certain way, all right, I now know I need to change my behavior and I need to communicate something else if I want to be treated different. So, and frankly, all three of you all said effectively a similar concept around we need to make sure that they know. And then we need to have a prepared consequence. And then if they're not sorry, then perhaps there's even a further consequence after that, if they're unwilling to apologize. Um, Vitamin C you need. I completely agree. I've been taking so much vitamin C over the last few days. Toggle 8216. I said, what do we do? What are things you've done in the past when people have crossed a boundary for you? The man in the hat, if they continue crossing the boundary, you have to have the self-esteem to distance yourself from that person. Y'all, let's just give a shout out to the man in the hat. I'm gonna tip my bow to you. Um, have enough self-esteem to distance yourself from that person. Y'all, this is really, really a hard one, especially because it's almost easier to not have the boundary than to have the distance. And especially when we love a person, and especially if it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, if they're like, oh, see, I knew you would pull back. And it's so painful. It's so painful because you're like, well, I don't want to, but you keep doing this thing that I'm telling you, asking you not to. Your relationships are really hard because we're engaging with two wounded people, two people who have their own past wounds. And y'all, I don't know about you, but what I've experienced for myself is that it's like the perfect concoction. I've seen this in so many relationships, so many marriages, so many dating relationships, where it really is like, it's almost like we were brought together to heal each other. And isn't that just how big God would be, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be the type of thing God would do? Where my wounding, you're wounding, where I'm strong, where you're weak, where you're strong, where I'm weak. We're actually the perfect concoction to help each other grow, to help each other heal, to then also trigger each other and make each other angry. So it's either for the good or for the bad. We get to choose. We get to choose where this direction goes. But I think it's only fair that we realize that there will be moments where it's so insanely upsetting. And then it's just okay, how then will we live? Uh the great one. Oh, I love this. I have found this is totally off topic, but I'm just going to call it out. I have found eating many oranges over 3 weeks can make you feel better in winter. Man, I just bought a bag of oranges today. It is wild. I like have this pressure in my head and like so much behind my nose. It's terrible. Uh, so thank you. I will continue to do that. Christopher Adams, I agree with C. Martin Love. The Stoics taught that we have sole autonomy over how we react to a situation, not the situation itself. Eric, yes. I love it. Um, Irish and no excuses. I don't know if they love you. How do you know important? I don't know what you mean by that, but please tell me. I feel like this. Oh, okay. If How do you know if a girl really loves you? Ooh, I feel like that is that could be a whole episode, a whole talk. Um, How do you know if somebody really loves you? I'll have to honestly, I think that that's too off topic. I think we should talk about that maybe in the next couple days. Irish and no excuses. Are you good with that? With us coming back to it? Because that's a whole different conversation. But I really want to get into it. And I see you've asked it a couple of times, and so I don't want to disregard you, but it is. I feel like that's actually really important. How do you know when someone loves you? Let me know if you'll come back on and let's talk about that in a couple days. Let me see if I have a guest tomorrow night because if not, maybe that's what we talk about tomorrow. Um, do I have a guest? Oh, I have a guest tomorrow night. Michelle. She'll be good. She'll be good. I'm excited to have her. Do I have a guest? I don't have a guest Tuesday. So, y'all, we can talk about that Tuesday. How do you know if someone really loves you? That's a hard one. Let me know if you guys want to talk about that. If someone gets mad for, if someone, Alonzo, if someone gets mad for you enforcing your boundaries, it's because they're used to crossing them and they can't handle you not. No is a full sentence. Y'all, that's so good. Y'all, sometimes this is what I'm learning right now. Implementing a boundary. One of the biggest reasons why I have not been implementing boundaries in my life is because it's more uncomfortable for me than it is for the other person. And I had been blaming not wanting to make the other person uncomfortable when really it was I felt uncomfortable myself. So, I don't know if anyone else there out there can resonate with that. Um, but that's what I realized a couple weeks ago. I was actually on the Knowing show. No, I was on the Craft and Calling show. That's where we talk about home services. And somebody was talking about being a good boss. And I was like, shoot, I have been hiding and haven't brought up some areas where I need to have my boundaries upheld because of my own comfort. And really, I was kind of saying I didn't want to make someone else feel uncomfortable by implementing my boundaries. So, uh, talk about a mirror moment. Y'all, um, I'm just looking through here. All right. Oh, AVG. If you're asking if a girl really loves you, she ain't it. Oh, Christopher Adams. That's a question all men struggle with. Oh, huh. Drew Young. Girls act silly and will clear schedules if they like you. I do actually now. Guys, it's so challenging because you've got so many different types of women. I have 3 sisters, and the 4 of us couldn't be more different. One of my sisters and I are like night and day, like so polar opposites. And we came from the same parents, and so we just have such opposite where I would probably be the Drew Young. I would probably clear my schedules if I like somebody where she'd be like, I'm going to show him that I'm not that obsessed and I'm going to say no. And that's so confusing. So it's like it's all how we all take I don't know, it's how we act in relation to our personality type. So I think it's just challenging. I don't know. I wish I had a better answer. But if you guys want to dive into it, Chris Adams, you said that's a question all men struggle with. So let's dive into it. Maybe on the 17th. Okay, I am just scrolling up here. Oh, I love that. Tim Gads, fix yourself instead of trying to seek a relationship in a fix needy mode. I like that. Um, Christopher Adams, don't buy into how someone treats you. Just say God bless them and then pray for them. God bless and pray. It is kind of like, it really is. Isn't that almost like the definition of letting go? Where you really can have somebody like slap you across the face and you're like, bye. And I'm just going to bless you and move on. you know? Um, all right, y'all. I am going to I think I'm gonna jump off. I'm starting to get super, super congested. So, um, oh, but I can't before reading this one. This is so good. Y'all, this is such a good reminder, such a good way to end the night. Ron Zindrick. Sometimes an over boundary activity is a sign that the person doing so is hurting/in pain. Use the situation as an opportunity to help them. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. Y'all, isn't this such a beautiful reminder that hurt people hurt people? And so if we're engaging with somebody, I'm just so glad you said that because actually tonight I had an engagement with somebody where that's exactly what I needed to hear as I go back and engage with them is that they're hurt around a particular topic. And it's like, I actually, for those of you who join me in the mornings, we do a show around A Course in Miracles, and we go through the daily lesson. And today's daily lesson is God is the love in which I forgive. I had a moment earlier today, which caused us to have this conversation around boundaries. Uh, but the second I got on here, I saw God is the love in which I forgive. And this is literally what I thought because I wasn't feeling very forgiving. When I saw that, I thought, damn it, now I have to forgive. And I don't normally curse. But I was like, that's who I want to be. God is the love in which I forgive. I want to be like that. I want to be like God. I want to forgive. And God has that love when I'm not feeling it. So let me go return to the source of love because to Ron's your point, sometimes an over boundary activity is a sign that the person doing so is hurting and in pain. Use this situation as an opportunity to help them. And y'all, I got to tell you from my experience, you guys might have something completely different, but I think for most of us, we have to be coming from that full cup. We have to have something to give to then be able to almost like overcome when the other person is doing or saying something that's really hurtful to us. It's a boundary that's crossed. And we have that boundary for a reason. So hurt people hurt people. I'm hurt right now, but you're hurting too. Am I able to tap into God is the love in which I forgive? Can I tap into that? Can I access the love of God to extend forgiveness and then come and sit with you in your pain? And that is empathy. And that's ultimately why we do the work, so that we've got something like a deep well from which to then give others. Y'all, thank you so much for joining tonight. Tomorrow night, I've got a guest, Michelle. She's going to freaking rock our world. 8:30 p.m. Eastern. The next night, we're going to talk about how to know if a woman loves you. Yikes. I might alter the topic a little bit because I don't really know. But hey, that means we'll all figure it out together. And then Wednesday night, we're going to do game night. Woohoo! At 9 p.m. Eastern. So 8:30, 8:39 over the next 2 nights or 3 nights. And then in the mornings, we go live at 9 a.m. Eastern, and we go through A Course in Miracles. So with that, y'all, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Really, really good to see so many of you. Honestly, it was really wonderful to hear from you guys. And learn from you and with you, Frank Castle. Here's a word. This is wisdom. We forgive, but we don't forget. Because this is where it's spiritually intelligent, emotionally intelligent, intellectually intelligent, physically intelligent. We have to be intelligent and wise across all levels of analysis, because if we're only tapping into one, we neglect another and leave ourselves susceptible for effectively attack later on. So I love that you said that, Frank. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Have such a wonderful night. I will talk to you tomorrow morning for those of you who joined 9 a.m. Eastern, and then again tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And then, as Brian always says, thank you, Brian, for reminding me, like and subscribe, and we can be friends. I go live twice every single day. So, with that, I will talk to you tomorrow. And